This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there and happy Thursday. Welcome to She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you so much for being here today. We're kind of rounding out the week. It is already Thursday, which is awesome, and tomorrow's Friday, so I hope you have something amazing planned this weekend. Probably a wedding, but if not, take some time for yourself. Before we get into today's interview, I want to make a quick announcement. On Tuesday, I announced for the first time that I am really wanting to have a summit for wedding professionals at my venue here in Colorado on our private ranch. The venue is Vista View Events at Open Heart Ranch. It is the venue I co-own with my sister-in-law, Katie, and I would really love to have a bunch of amazing wedding professionals up there. Currently, I'm calling it She Creates Business, a summit for wedding pros, but right now I'm truly just kind of gauging interest, and the name might even change. But I want to announce it because I want to know if you'd be interested in something like that. Here is kind of the layout and the thoughts that I have around the summit right now. So it will be probably 2.5 days. It will not be on a weekend because I'm thinking May 2018 and we are wedding professionals, so we probably have weddings. I know that the dates aren't going to fit for everybody, but you got to pick one, right? So it's probably going to be a Sunday through a Wednesday. That's my initial thought at the moment. And I want it to be an summit where, of course, we already feel motivated, right? We're motivated kind of intrinsically because we're attending in-person events and, investing in those things. So more than that, I really want it to be a place where you come and bring a goal or two that you want to work on in your business. So working on those, implementing, doing hands-on workshops, panels where you actually get questions answered, and not just a bunch of motivation after motivation after motivation. I hope that makes sense. I love conferences. I love in-person events, and I think it's about time that I host my own. So if you are interested in that at all, I would love for you to go to bit.ly/WedProSummit. That's bit.ly/WedProSummit. Just pop your email in there and let me know that you're interested. Those emails are not going on my main email list, so you're not going to get emails from me. I just truly want to know who might be interested in a 2.5-day summit in May with awesome speakers, awesome content, awesome swag, but also time away from your regular life to actually work on some goals that you have for 2018. I would love to see you there. Again, that's bit.ly/WedProSummit. So let's get into today's interview. I am absolutely delighted to welcome Alexandra Peterson. She goes by Alex from Idalia Photography to the show. Today we are talking all things blogging. So how to blog to attract your ideal client, why you should be blogging in your business, and then also how to submit to wedding blogs. Alex actually is the editor of a small niched wedding blog called The Learned Bride. And we talk about those small niche wedding blogs that could actually attract your ideal client and why, it's really important to kind of go after those types of blogs instead of, those huge all-encompassing goals. Like we all want to be published on Style Me Pretty, right? But if your if your ideal client and your bride is, someone like from The Learned Bride, which only publishes weddings that have taken place at universities or museums, that's a really targeted niche, right? But if you're interested in a bride who is also interested in those things, that might be the perfect blog for you, right? Is she actually on Style Me Pretty? Maybe not. So great conversation today. Let me tell you a little bit about Alex. She is one half of her husband and wife photography team, and her husband's name is Jay. They run Idalia Photography together. She specializes in wedding and newborn photography, but she's also passionate about helping other photographers and creatives with business, blogging, and photography. She recently left her teaching job of 14 years in order to chase her dreams, and she could not be happier. As I mentioned, she is the editor of The Learned Bride. She also helps photographers establish credibility and elevate their work through online publication. Lastly, her Facebook group, which has over 1,100 members, was recently named one of the best photography groups on Facebook in 2017. So we cover a lot of ground today. And just really quickly, let me kind of give you the top 4 things we talk about when it comes to blogging for your wedding business. Number 1, don't blog for everybody. You really need to specialize. Number 2, your blogging content should engage, inform, and inspire your audience. Number 3, make announcements and promotions. Don't forget to promote your business. It is absolutely okay to do that. And number 4, photographers, send your images to other businesses. I'm a venue and I love it when photographers send me their images because I almost always create blog posts around them. So those were kind of the 4 tips. We totally do a deep dive into those. But before we get started, if you are interested, Alex has made an incredible freebie for everybody listening to this show. You can find it over at idaliaphotography.com/she creates. And I will link that up in the show notes. But it's a wedding publication checklist. So if you've wanted to get published, if you're interested in blogging, if you want to know how to submit, if you want to know, what are those niche websites that I can submit to, this is an awesome freebie for you. So once again, that's over at idaliaphotography.com/she creates, and I will link it up in the show notes because I know that Idalia can be a little bit tricky to spell sometimes. Other than that, let's go to the show. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kinsey. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm excited to have you. You and I have kind of been going back and forth with each other on Instagram for a while, and I've just really enjoyed following you and love all of your sweet comments, and so I'm so happy to finally have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. I've been following along with you right from the start, and I just love your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're going to have fun today. I'm really excited about our topic today, which I introduced at the top of the show, as well as kind of told them your professional bio. But I would love for you, Alex, in your own words, to just briefly tell us who you are and how you are currently serving the wedding industry.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, I am a wedding and newborn photographer. I live out in New Jersey, and I was actually a teacher for 14 years, and I left my teaching job last June. So I'm really excited to be starting my first wedding season as a full-time photographer this year.
That's wonderful.
I'm also a blogger. I'm an educator, and I'm the editor of a small niche blog called The Learned Bride. So that's, in a nutshell, who I am.
Oh, awesome. Well, congratulations on your first full year of being a photographer. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. It's definitely exciting.
Tell me about The Learned Bride. I don't think I know about that.
So The Learned Bride it's a small niche blog that publishes university and museum weddings.
Mm-hmm.
So a few years ago, I had been looking for a wedding blog to submit. I had photographed a university wedding at Columbia University, and I was looking for a place to submit to, and I just couldn't find the right fit. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if there were a blog just for university and museum weddings? And there wasn't one, so I created one. So it's a little bit, of a side project, and I'm not as regular as I would love to be with publishing weddings on it because, it's a little, like I said, a little bit of a side project, but I love it. It's a lot of fun.
That's what matters. And that sounds so fun. As somebody who is like very books and museums and all of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the best. I'm writing down like, check out The Learned Bride after this interview.
Yeah, I'd love it if you did.
That's really fun. I'm going to hook this up in the show notes, you guys. So for those listening, check that out because I have never heard of that. And I think that that's a marvelous side project. And so tell me really quickly then, how often do you publish over there?
So it depends, what time of year it is, but I try to do once a week as much as possible.
Cool.
If I have some weeks where I'm not too busy, then I can do a couple times a week, definitely no more than 2 times a week. Unfortunately, there's been times when, like I said, since this is a side thing, there's been times in my life where I haven't been able to. But I try to be as consistent as I can be.
Oh, yeah. I hear you, girl. I'm sure everyone listening right now is shaking their head like, yes, we skip things too. Do you take submissions over there or do you just publish yourself?
We do. I take submissions. I use 2 bright lights. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more, with you later. But, I take submissions usually over 2 bright lights. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you guys, if you're listening and you have some really awesome university and or museum weddings, maybe head over there and see if it might be a good fit for you. Love that. Okay. Sorry, I got off track. Let's get on to the meat of the interview. That's really exciting. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. So today we are talking about a couple of things. We're really talking about kind of blogging all the way around, but specifically how we can use blogging to attract our ideal client or our ideal couples or what have you. And then also, and so kind of similarly, but in a different area, how we can get ourselves published in wedding blogs. And so I kind of want to break these down separately really quick. Alex, if you would kind of tell me, let's start with blogging to attract your ideal client and then getting published in wedding blogs. When you say these things, what do they mean to you? And then why do you think these are both important in our businesses?
Well, I think that actually both of them, are super connected. Both blogging and getting published in wedding blogs have allowed us to tap into free forms of marketing, which have been really huge for us. We don't spend a lot of money on marketing. We did Wedding Wire for about a few years ago, and since then we've only really done a few Facebook ads here and there, but we don't spend money on marketing really. So both blogging and getting published allows us to just get our work in front of more people. And definitely they both allow us to attract our ideal client. It helps us build credibility. And definitely also it helps us build strong vendor relationships, which is really important in our industry.
Absolutely. So as far as a free form of marketing, I know that sometimes we can say, what am I trying to say here? Well, a lot of times we're like, yes, it's free. Social media is free, but sometimes you don't actually see any results from that. So when, having your own blog that's consistent and then getting published, can you kind of give us some examples of how that has helped you, like from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, definitely. Well, growing our traffic has been huge.
Okay.
Being able to be our photography blog for our own business is super consistent. I try to blog over there 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week, depending on the time of year.
Okay.
But it just helps us just grow our traffic in general. And when we first started the blog in 2000, I actually started blogging in like 2010, but I didn't really start taking it seriously until 2013. And when I look back on my blog stats from back then, in 2013, that first month that I started tracking using Google Analytics, we had 560 users that month, which seems like a lot, I know. But now I just checked our monthly stats from this past January, and we're at 3,400 monthly users. And that is just huge. So blogging has definitely helped us just get in front of more people. It helps us attract our ideal clients more. Now, we're able to just showcase the work, the types of weddings that we want to shoot. And so we're able to attract more of those brides who are planning weddings similar to the ones that we're showcasing. Mm-hmm. And then it's helped us enormously with our SEO. So we are able, if you Google really any venue that we've shot at in New Jersey, we're on pages 1 or 2 for that. So we're able to just, be in front of a lot more people.
So you started blogging in 2010. Let me see if I have this timeline right. And back in that time period, maybe from 2010 to 2013, before you really started taking it seriously, you were getting about 500 hits a month.
When I started tracking it, yep.
When you started tracking it. Okay. And so from 2013 to now, you've more than doubled more than tripled your traffic. And now you're getting about 3,400 hits a month.
Yeah. Monthly users. Yeah.
Monthly users. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Oh, I love this. Okay. This is really interesting. And for those who may not be familiar, can you kind of tell them how you're tracking that? I think you said Google Analytics.
Yeah, Google Analytics.
And what is that?
I basically, it's a service offered by Google, and all you have to do is you can just Google it and you create an account, and then you're able to basically see all the stats. You can see how many people visit your site every day. You can see which pages they're visiting. You can see, which ones of your blog posts have been the most popular. You can even track, if you launch a blog post, if you publish a blog post and you want to see exactly how many people are on the blog at any one time, you can actually check out the real-time stats, and you can see how many people are on your site at a certain time and what they're looking at. So it really allows you to measure every single aspect of the efforts that you're putting towards your website and your blog.
Yes. And if you're listening now, never fear, in case your next question is, well, I have XYZ website platform. The answer is you can use Google Analytics. So WordPress, Squarespace, they'll all take Google Analytics. You just have to install HTML code on WordPress and then your UA number on Squarespace. Cool. Okay. So tell us, let's kind of get into some tactical information. So I love that and thank you for sharing numbers with us. I think that's so helpful for us to really visualize. So I really appreciate that. Can you kind of give us 3 to 4 best practices that can kind of help us utilize our blogs effectively in our businesses?
Yeah, I think the first thing, that everybody should do, and this is something that I didn't do in the beginning. I was, kind of new to blogging. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was trying to blog for everyone. And that can be really overwhelming, especially if you offer more than one service. So at the time, I was offering family photography and children photography and newborn photography and weddings and all these different things. And I was trying to blog for everybody. And it really wasn't until we started to specialize that our blog really kicked off. So I would say to identify your ideal client is super, super important. And once you know who you're blogging to, it'll become a lot more easier to come up with content. Something else that I would definitely advise your listeners to do is to find topics that are going to engage your audience. You don't want to just show what you're doing right now, but find ways to educate your clients, inform your clients, inspire them, even maybe provide some entertaining content for them. So I think varying your blog content is going to keep people engaged and coming back for more, because you're not just blogging recent work that you did or, what you're up to right now, but you're blogging things that are relevant to them, that are useful to them, and that they'll find, truly helpful.
Okay. Can you give us an example? So I'd love to hear from your own blog, you said once you started specializing, I assume that means once you said, okay, I'm a wedding and newborn photographer and that's it.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So something specific that we do is we publish a lot of educational posts. So, and by we, I say my husband and I, but my husband doesn't blog. It's really just me.
It's just me, guys.
But educational posts are huge. I have a series called Tips for Brides. And on there, I provide a lot of educational content to our brides to help them just get the most out of their experience with us. And I also blog vendor highlights in there. So I love featuring vendors that I love to work with, because, the more eyes I can get on their work, the better it will be for us, because we'll be able to work with vendors that we enjoy, spending the day with and whose work we love and all of that. So definitely educational posts for brides have been huge for us, and they bring in a lot of traffic, especially when I have guest posts from vendors. When I highlight them, they also share the guest post on their social media. So now I'm tapping into their blog audience as well. And then we also use the blog to connect with our audience. And I don't publish that many personal posts, but the ones that are there have a personal category. They are always read by the brides. When we have our consults, they'll often mention, oh, I love that you wrote about this. And we have a 10 things we didn't know about me post, and they're constantly mentioning things from there. They love to see the behind the scenes. So anything that's going to allow you to connect with your audience and kind of allow them to get to know you a little bit is huge. So that's something that we do. And also using the blog for informational stuff. Like we launched a photo booth a couple years ago, and that's how I announced it. I didn't just put it on social media, but I announced it on our blog, and I actually have it as a featured image. So now any bride who comes to our website, they'll see the post about launching a new photo booth as one of the featured posts. So we're still getting traffic to that, even though it was about a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow. And so you mean you are a photographer and they can also purchase a photo booth from you and have that set up at their event?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. We also provide, photo booth services. So just using your blog to also promote your stuff, because if you post it on social media, they may or may not see it, but your blog ends up being a place that consistently shows anything you're trying to inform your readers of.
So true. I have a question, and this is like personal interest for me because I am so interested. I was really happy to hear you say that your education posts are really highly trafficked because on my own blog for my venue, not for the podcast, but for my venue, especially since we are just coming into we're like the building is getting done and we're getting ready for like our first summer and fall season. We don't have a ton of like real weddings to do. And even then, my business partner and I, her is my sister-in-law, Katie. We're not very much like, you can get inspiration anywhere. It's like, go to Pinterest. Like I feel like when I've done focus groups with brides, and sorry, I'm stuttering. This is like a long way around to ask you a question. But when I've done focus group with brides, their real questions are not like, how can I get calligraphy on marble coasters? You know what I mean? They actually need tactical, logistical information. And so that's what we've kind of committed ourselves to doing on our blog. And I wonder, how did you decide that education would be something that your brides would like? Did you just start testing those bride tips? Or did you also hear the same thing? I'm interested to know how you decided that because I love that.
I had taken an SEO course, and actually, in that course, they were talking about evergreen content and how you should publish evergreen content that, no matter, an evergreen content is basically an article that you publish on your blog that is going to be relevant at any moment in time. Yes. So it's going to be something that at any point in time, a bride can pull it up and it's relevant. So tips for how to choose a wedding venue, tips for how to choose florals for your wedding day, things like that. And so basically that's how I heard about evergreen content. And I asked myself, all right, well, what kind of evergreen content can I write that will always be relevant to the brides? And I thought about pain points and struggles that my clients have. And that's something that you can do too, right? Just think about what kinds of questions your brides, your potential brides have and how you can help them solve that problem. So picking a wedding venue is huge, right? And how to plan a wedding, just in the area that you are servicing. So yeah, once I did that, I published our first blog post that was evergreen content was locations to shoot engagement sessions in New Jersey. And I just came up with that idea because there was nothing like that. And I had actually struggled when I first started shooting engagement sessions, to find local parks and beaches and unique places where I'd be able to do engagement sessions. And so I wrote up that post. I think at the time it maybe had like 10 locations, with some pictures that I had from each one of the locations. And that is our biggest source of traffic to this day. And that's from January 2013. It gets so many hits on a daily basis. And I've updated it. And I just continue to update it with just recent images and with just more locations that I shoot at. And sometimes I take out locations that I don't like to shoot at anymore. Mm-hmm. I take those out because I'm sharing this with our brides. So it was really through that. And when I saw the results from that I thought, okay, how else can I help brides? What other topics do I want to help them with? And also just thinking about frequently asked questions, right? Because I would get emails, multiple emails with multiple questions from brides. And so I would start thinking about topics that would answer those questions.
Absolutely. And I really want to shine a light on something that you just said. If you were listening closely, that most traffic posts that Alex has is actually from 2013. And so that is definitely what we would consider an evergreen piece of content or pillar content. Same thing if you've heard heard it said either way. But instead of reinventing the wheel and republishing that same or rewriting that whole same blog post, all she does is go in there every 6 months to a year, update it. And so anytime anyone lands on it, it is still totally relevant to this year. But so this piece of content that she wrote almost 4 years ago is still working for her. And all she's having to do is update and not just reinvent the wheel every year. So that is so awesome, Alex. Thanks for that piece of advice.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let me transition just a little bit here. As the photographer, if other vendors are listening right now and we're thinking like, gosh, we would love to like blog our real weddings or blog, about our bridal, other information or education for brides, but we really want to use photos that we have had our work featured in. How can we get those photos from our photographers? Is that even allowed? And how can we use them on our blog so that, everybody loves pictures, but we'd love to use our photos that we've actually are showcasing our work. So how do we obtain those from our photographers?
I think I get this question a lot because I work with a lot of different wedding planners, and they always comment on after the wedding. I always send our images to the wedding planners and other vendors so that they can use those images on their own social media and on their own blogs and everything like that. And a lot of them tell me that I'm one of the only photographers that they work with who actually does that. And so to the photographers out there, send your images to the vendors. They need images, and they'll be happy to use your images to promote both your and their work. So I think now if for the wedding planners out there and the florists and calligraphers and other people in the industry, I think that you can just ask. I think that a lot of people just hesitate, and I know it gets busy, but if you incorporate it as part of your workflow, after every job, once the wedding is shot, what are you going to do on that Monday morning? Something on the calendar for that Monday morning should be to email the photographer, and not to bug them for pictures, but just to say, hey, we really enjoyed working with whatever couple. We can't wait to see the images. Let us know when they're ready. We'd be happy to use them to promote your work on our social media and our blog. And I think that goes a long way. Just like a friendly little thing. Don't bug them if you don't hear back from them after 1 or 2 days. Just wait a little while, because images take a little while to edit. But at least that you're going to be front of mind when the photographer edits those, let's say, those preview images. It's very easy to just hit reply. Hey, I just, edited a few images, find them on Facebook. Here's the gallery. You can download them here. So I think just asking definitely comes a long way. And that'll allow you to get, the images. And right now, for us, it's our wedding season hasn't started yet. So something that I'm doing right now is doing a lot of vendor networking. So I'm getting out, if there was, let's say, a vendor whose email I couldn't find last year and I didn't send them the images, or maybe it was the week after a triple header or something, and I just didn't get to send, all the vendors the images. I'm going back to those weddings right now, and I'm sending them the images now. And everybody wants images to use on their social media. So they're very happy to receive an email from me with a link to the gallery. So it's not too late. Just because you shot the wedding a year ago, or last season, doesn't mean that you can't reach out to the photographer to get images from them.
Excellent tips. Thank you for those, Alex. That's awesome. Okay.
Sure.
So I have one more question kind of on the realm of blogging, and then we're going to switch gears and talk about submitting to wedding blogs, which is kind of our second topic for today's episode. So obviously, you've given us a ton of really actionable tips, and so I think that we can both agree that blogging is not dead. But there are still some people out there who say that, even especially, with podcasting and this medium and so many, live video on Instagram and Facebook and everything, everyone's like, ugh, blogging, or they hate blogging or what have you. So obviously you and I disagree with that, but give me your thoughts. Why do you think blogging is absolutely not dead, aside from, what we've already discussed, and why we should, or maybe how we can incorporate our blog with those other mediums that we do love to do, like live video, podcasting, YouTubing, all of that?
Well, I think that old school blogging is dead for sure. The kind of blogging where you write daily updates about everything and anything that's going on in your life. I think definitely that type of blogging is dead. But the type of blogging that isn't dead is the kind of writing that is truly specific, that targets a very, very specific niche, and that educate people. Like, blogs that educate people are definitely the ones that I know that I keep going back to all the time. Those are the ones that I'm subscribed to, that, I have a Blog Lovin' account where I subscribe to, when I read all the blogs that I subscribe to. And the ones that I read on a daily basis are the ones that I know I'm going to learn something from. So there's a quote by Brian Clark, and he says, these days, people want to learn before they buy, be educated instead of pitched. And I think that's huge. So definitely a blog that educates your clients is going to go a long way. And you really want your potential client to kind of get lost, on your blog a little bit. So once they land there, once you draw them in because they Googled wedding photos from a specific venue, what else is there for them to look at, while they're on your blog? But yeah, I think it definitely incorporating the blog into, like, for your podcasts, for example, the show notes, incorporating show notes whenever you have a podcast is so important. There's some podcasts out there that don't have show notes, or I find something on YouTube and then they talk about a link and they don't give the link, so a lot of people are listening to podcasts in the car. and they don't have time to write down, they're unable to write down the links or just names or things that they want to look up afterwards. So incorporating that, I think, into the workflow is ideal. And actually incorporating blogging into the workflow is super important. I think it's very easy to kind of let things get fall behind with your blog if it's not part of the workflow. So making sure that, after you publish a podcast or you shoot a wedding or you design the florals, you decide, okay, well, at what part of my workflow am I going to blog about it? A friend of mine who's a wedding planner, she goes ahead and she blogs the inspiration board before the wedding even happens. If she has access to the engagement photos, she blogs the engagement photos of the couple before the wedding even happens. So she gets so much out of each couple. She gets 2 blog posts before the wedding. Then after the wedding, she'll blog the wedding images themselves. And then after that, she might just do a blog post about the details. So it's really getting a lot of just reusing and being able to repurpose the blog content as part of a workflow.
Yes, I love that. And if you're listening and you have a podcast right now, so my show notes are pretty simple. I certainly don't do a whole 1,500 word blog post on my show notes, which a lot of people do, and that's great. But what I would encourage you to do is decide how you like to, well, let me back up. And what Alex just said is a quote from Brian Clark of Copyblogger. People want to be educated, not pitch. They want to learn instead of just be sold to. And so decide really how you want to educate people and how you want people to learn from you. And so for us podcasters, it is difficult to bring people back to our site because podcasting is such an active medium, and they are driving, they are working out, they're cleaning the kitchen. They're not necessarily tapping on our podcast player to head over to our blog. So if you can incorporate something like text digits, like text 44333 to whatever, and you'll get this download, decide how you want to deliver your content so that you can bring people back to your site. Because if you are giving them value, like with this download, or they're signing up for your email list and they get content that way, especially with an active medium like podcasting, I feel like it can still go a long way, just like blogging. And then, as Alex just said, reuse that content on your blog instead of trying to recreate the wheel, but deliver it where they are, basically. Would you agree, Alex?
Yes. And I love that you just mentioned that texting feature, because I love when I'm listening to a podcast and it includes that, because then I can easily pull over and just text, or if I'm at the gas station or something, that's something that I could definitely do real fast. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
Cool. Yeah. And the only platform that I know it's not the only one, but the one that I know of most or well is Lead Digits from Lead Pages. Mm-hmm. Do you know of any other services that offer just that?
Oh, I wish I did.
Me
no,
too.
That's the only one that I know too.
Good job, Lead
But it's
Pages,
so worth
cornering
it.
the market.
Yeah, I just started using Lead Pages and Lead Boxes recently, and it's amazing.
Yes.
So.
Oh, cool. Okay, so it sounds like we both love that. We can nerd on that after this show.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of transition, as I mentioned, over to getting published on wedding blogs. I loved what you said earlier about it, build strong vendor relationships. It is kind of free marketing. It can build credibility. I have a question. So what are, especially as somebody who has their own wedding blog that people can submit to, talk to us about 3 to 5 best practices for getting our stuff published.
Well, I think it's important to actually do a lot of research before deciding that you want to get your work published, and sometimes even before shooting a wedding. So something that I find is that some photographers, they don't really even know who they're submitting to and what kinds of weddings that publication actually features. So on The Learned Bride, I only publish weddings that are on university campuses, or at least the portraits are on university campuses or a museum. And I get so many random weddings that have nothing to do with universities and museums. Mm-hmm. It's almost like photographers just go onto Too Bright Lights and just submit the one wedding to every single non-exclusive publication that there is. So I think doing a lot of research and understand what the editor is looking for is really important. So if you have a rustic wedding, maybe you want to submit it to Rustic Wedding Chic, and you're not going to want to submit it to black tie bride. Maybe if you have a classic wedding that's timeless and it's at an estate, maybe that's what you're going to submit to the black tie bride. So I think it's important, just to become familiar with the publications that you're submitting to make sure that your work is a good fit for them. Because otherwise it's a waste of time for you. It's a waste of time for the editor. And then the next time you submit to that editor, they might not, be as excited to see your work because you've been sending them weddings that are completely irrelevant to their blog. Also, something that you can do is curate your work really well and make sure that all of the vendors involved are incorporated. So, you don't want to leave out the cake when you're putting together a submission. So go through your list of vendors and make sure that you have work that represents every single one of your vendors, just because you want to feature their work. And then also you want them to be excited about the feature also and get credit for it and share images, on their blog or their social media once the wedding is published. So it's taking the time to curate the work, choosing the images wisely, definitely incorporating an album story. So people love a nice romantic, story, love story. And I think that's really important to incorporate. And you can get that by reaching out to your brides too. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to write so much. You can just reach out to your brides, and your brides love talking about their love story. They want to be featured. So I think, reaching out to the brides so that you can just craft a nice album submission that includes a nice story with a full vendor list, because you definitely don't want to leave anybody out. Mm-hmm. And definitely follow guidelines. A lot of blogs out there are exclusive blogs, so they'll only publish the wedding if it hasn't been featured anywhere before. So you want to definitely respect those guidelines. There are some non-exclusive wedding blogs who will publish your work, even if it's been published somewhere else, let's say after 30 days or after 60 days or something like that. So just read through the guidelines that the publication provides so that you're following their directions and you're just kind of respecting, their blog. And the last thing I would say is just to be patient. Don't be discouraged. We get rejected more than we get published. And that happens, mm-hmm. Like you just have to keep at it. Your blog, your images just might not be a good fit for that blog, or maybe they just got a submission that is very similar to the one that you provided, and they want to have variety in the work that they publish too. So it just might not be good timing. So I think, just don't be afraid and don't feel bad about a no, because you just need to keep at it, and you just have to find the right fit sometimes for the work that you're submitting.
Mm-hmm. Kind of playing off of that, what are your thoughts on, I guess, submitting? We all have I would love to be published on, I'm going to say it, Style Me Pretty. You know what I mean? Everyone always uses that as kind of the beacon. But what if that's not your ideal client? If you have literally, I'll just use your blog for example. If you are literally kind of going out or your ideal client is more of a bride in academia or whatever, and you've done tons of library, museum, whatever weddings. What are your thoughts on submitting to those actual sites that cater specifically to your ideal client versus, just getting a ton of hits from random people on Style Me Pretty?
No, I think that it all goes back to making sure that everything you put out there, whether it's publishing something on your blog, sharing something on social media, submitting it to a wedding blog, I think everything needs to be focused on that ideal client. If it's not going to help you attract your ideal client, then it's really not worth your time, right? It's not worth it to submit a wedding to a blog just for your SEO, right? There has to be something else, because otherwise you're just going to get attract brides that are not the types of brides that you want to work for, and that you're not going to be able to deliver the kind of experience that they want too. So I think, if there's a blog out there, Rock and Roll Bride. Mm-hmm. So if that's your ideal client, then submit to Rock and Roll Bride, right? And really just, there's so many blogs out there that I think, there's a blog out there for every wedding. I truly believe that. I think you just have to find the right one. And if your ideal client is not on Style Me Pretty, then don't waste your time.
There you go. Love that. Okay. A couple more questions here. You mentioned don't get discouraged, keep doing it. Is there such a thing as submitting too much?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that our goal is to submit every single wedding that we shoot. And it doesn't mean that we get every single wedding published. It just means that we're going to give it a shot, and I usually I don't tell our brides that we're submitting their wedding because I don't want to disappoint them. Unless I'm really confident that I know I'll get their wedding published somewhere, then I'll reach out to them and let them know that I'm submitting it. But I think that you can just try to submit it, as much as possible, and just kind of take advantage of that, because then you can promote your blog again. It just gives you an opportunity to promote that wedding again, I should say. So once you shoot a wedding, it's easy to just have that wedding kind of get lost in your blog, but if you get it published, then you can kind of draw attention to it again, and I think that comes a long way. We actually just had a wedding published today by Red Oak Weddings, and that wedding had been on New Jersey Bride a while ago, and it got published again today, and it gave me an opportunity to showcase it again on our social media and reach out to the vendors again and have them use the images again on social media. So, it's just a nice way to be able to get more eyes on your work. So I don't think that that you can submit too much. I think, maybe you just want to submit a wedding 2 to 3 times tops, I would say, but I don't think that you should limit which weddings, you're submitting just based on, I already submitted, 10 weddings this year or something like that. And I think every bride would love to see her wedding published. So it's nice to just give it a try, obviously for them too. It's not just about marketing, but, I love sending emails to my brides saying, hey, your wedding was featured on this blog today and blah, blah, blah. And, they just love it, and they post about it too. So it's really exciting for them.
That's so exciting. Okay. I love that. So I have a quick question, and then I wrote this down. I wanted to go back to it. What do you think? So as an editor, you mentioned 2 bright lights, and I think we might get into that when you tell me kind of like what tools and stuff you're using to manage your business. But I assume that that's a submission tool, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, let's just get into that. Let's talk about that real quick. Tell us about 2 bright lights.
So 2 Bright Lights is the platform that I use both as a photographer and an editor. Okay. So I will go ahead and when I'm ready to submit a wedding, I'll load it up into 2 Bright Lights. So it's a place where you can upload the images and you can tag all the vendors, and it allows you to submit the wedding to the different wedding blogs that they have featured. So what's nice about it is that everything is all in one spot. And if your wedding that you submit gets rejected, then you can quickly just go right in and resubmit it somewhere else. So it just makes the submission process a lot easier. You don't have to deal with uploading images to Dropbox each time and sending people Dropbox links or things like that. Which you can do too. There are a lot of actually wedding blogs only take submissions that way. But if you are shooting many, many weddings a year, or you're trying to submit many weddings each year even as a wedding planner, I think that it just gives you a nice opportunity to submit in a timely fashion, and just not let it be so time consuming.
Yes. And it sounds really organized and pretty seamless, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay. Well, tell me then, I guess, let's just go into it. I love talking about tools and tech and what are you using in your business. So tell me about it. What else are you using?
Yeah. So, for client management, I use 17 Hats. I love 17 Hats. And so I use that for contracts and invoicing. I use it for creating questionnaires for my clients, just keeping track of workflows, just to check out, where I am in the wedding workflow. So yeah, love 17 Hats. For making blogging a little bit easier, I'm using BlogStomp, which allows me to create collages of images. It allows me to rename the images, and it allows me to resize the images. So that definitely makes my life very, very easy when it comes to just image management. And I use CoSchedule to actually schedule. It's a drag and drop editorial calendar. So I can use that to schedule blog posts to go live. I can schedule it also. I can use it to schedule social media posts to go out. I have it connected to my Facebook and Instagram and Google Plus and all that. So that's definitely super useful. For social media, I use Planoly so that I can schedule all my social media posts on Instagram in advance, and I can type in my captions on the computer instead of on the phone, which is really nice. Recently, I started using Meet Edgar, which I'm still in the process of setting up. But that has been really amazing, and it's just so powerful. Meet Edgar has just been definitely one of my favorites this year. This is new for us for this wedding for this year, so it's a fun, exciting new addition to my workflow. And other than that, I mean, I use Evernote and Trello, and those are always super helpful just to kind of keep blogging drafts or manage blogging workflows, things like that.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, we've had a lot of these on the podcast before. Tell me, is Blogstomp, that sounds like a WordPress, is that a plugin or what is that?
Blogstomp is actually a software,
Okay.
and so anybody can download it. It's pretty affordable. I think it's around $50, so it's definitely reasonable, and it's super useful, not just for photographers, but for anybody who is dealing with images that they want to insert into a blog post. So it'll allow you to resize the images to the size that is best for your blog, and also rename them so that your images aren't image 01, image 02. Because that's not going to help you get found on SEO. And then it just makes everything super easy when you're creating collages. So if you want to put like two images next to each other, it'll allow you to do that too.
Excellent. Okay. And as always, friends, these will be in the show notes so that you guys can click on the links. And if you're interested in learning more about any of the tools that Alex has mentioned today. And I did put down already, we did talk about lead digits and Google Analytics, so that will all be in there. So Alex, as we wrap up here, this has been such a fun, helpful interview. So thank you. You are definitely, truly an educator. I can tell how much you love this stuff.
Thanks for having me.
Oh
this
my
is
gosh.
fun to share all of this with everybody.
Good. I'm so glad. When you have fun. So tell me what you're excited about for 2017 and beyond. What's going on in your world?
Well, my husband and I are actually celebrating our 5th wedding anniversary this year.
Oh,
so
yay.
that is super exciting. Yeah. And we just found out last week that we've been trying to get tickets to the Wave out in Arizona for 3 years. They have a very strict permit process, and they have the lottery that you have to play to try to get a permit, and we've been playing that lottery every month for 3 years, and we finally won.
Oh my gosh.
And the date that we got approved for is actually 3 days before our wedding anniversary. So I am really excited about going out to Arizona and hiking out in the Wave. That's going to be, I think, the highlight of our year. That's huge. That's definitely huge.
That's huge.
It's super exciting. And as far as business, I'm excited to have more time this year for photography education. I've committed to blogging for photographers on Mondays this year, and I've really been enjoying sharing valuable content with our readers. And a lot of it is relevant to other creatives, in the wedding industry. So I have a lot of wedding planners also that, have been checking out my work a lot, and that makes me really happy just to be able to just help other people with with things that I have dealt with in the industry. And I'm actually considering a blogging for creatives in-person workshop this year. So that's super exciting, just to kind of, brainstorm a little bit and just put out some feelers and things like that. So yeah, those are the big things I have going on this year.
That is so exciting. You have a really exciting year ahead of you. I'm dying over this Wave thing that's happening 3 days before your anniversary.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It was meant to be. Cool. Well, let me know if you do the workshop or whatever, let me know so I can link that up in your show notes so that it's kind of hanging out there, if you would.
Yes, definitely, I will.
All right. Alex Peterson, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. It's truly been my pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you. This has been really fun, Kinsey. It's been an honor.
You are quite welcome. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.